Welcome to the Run to Remember Challenge Coaches Box. I'm Amanda Reeves, Operation Manager here at Hands Across the Water, and your host. Today we're joined by Veronika Larisova, an inspiring health and fitness expert, elite athlete, and founder of Chief Nutrition. Veronika combines her extensive experience in functional training, nutrition, and product development to create high-quality, sustainable snacks that fuel performance and health. To all our listeners, remember, good nutrition is the foundation of great performance. Whether you're running 1 kilometre or 1,400 kilometres, check out Chief Nutrition's range of products and join us in supporting the Run to Remember Challenge. Together, we can make a lasting impact for the children of Hands. Okay, thanks for joining me today, Veronika.
Thanks, Amanda, for having me. I'm super excited to chat about the Run to Remember Challenge and what's coming up for all the participants, but especially for Pete. It's incredible what is he doing, and yeah, I just can't wait to follow him and see how it's gonna go.
I know, we're so excited here at Hands as well, and we're so privileged to have you join us in this challenge and really get an insight as to your experience, your advice, and sharing what Pete will experience through this challenge that he set for himself. It is incredible, and we're hoping to cheer him along and hopefully have as many participants running alongside him as well.
Thank you.
Veronika, can you share with me a little bit about your fitness journey? How did you get into fitness? What's your history? Have you always been a runner? I know you've done some really elite athlete stuff, but how did you start out?
I have never been a runner, and I'm not a lead runner in any shape or form. I, however, grew up very healthily. My dad used to be a professional athlete, and then when he had kids, he became a bodybuilder. And I spent a lot of time with him at the gym from when I was 2 years old. So gym is like my second nature. It's just part of my life. I used to do lots of different sporting activities with my dad, grew up eating really healthy food. So I had very good upbringing in that regard. And my sport of choice was dance sport. And I used to compete on a very high level in Latin ballroom dancing when I was a kid, teenager. And I absolutely hated running. I never liked to run. When we had to run for like fitness, I hated it. When we had to run at school around the track, I hated it as well. And I only started running when I moved to Australia and I was 23 years old, because it was so pretty here. And like where I grew up, it is very ugly. It is a mining area. Everything is black, and it wasn't very exciting to run around there. But in Australia, it's become very exciting. And I started running for fun, to explore and to, help with my mindset and with my fitness. And I just really fell in love with running in Australia, but I have not done any running race or fun run until I was 30, which is when I moved to Sydney.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I know. I was just never really interested. And then I moved to Sydney, and back then running was quite big. Like people think that the running wave only just came recently, but it does really come in waves. So when I moved to Sydney, which is like almost 15 years ago, running was quite big, and everyone was doing the Sydney Bay Run, City to Surf, Sydney Marathon. And so I signed up for the Sydney Bay Run and ended up coming second female. And it really surprised me. I'm like, wow, I can really run. So then the next thing I've done was the Sydney Half Marathon. And I did really well as well. I think my time was hour and 26 minutes for the first one. And then I thought that was like my maximum distance. I did Sydney Bay Run. I did City to Surf, which is still my favorite run. I always run dressed up in a costume, and I love it. I did that in like 55 minutes. And then I did the Sydney Half. And then I said, oh, I'm never going to run any longer. This is the maximum. And then my friend who owns a gym in Sydney tried to convince me to train with his gym crew for the Sydney Full Marathon. And I was like, oh my God, no, that's too far. I'm never doing full marathon, never, ever. And then next year, I actually did do it. I got convinced. And then I fell in love with the full marathon distance. So then I did a few full marathons, and then someone convinced me to do a trail race. So then I did a trail race, and I got hooked up with the trail running, and ended up running all the way to up to 100 kilometers, qualified for the Mont Blanc, the Ultra Trail Mont Blanc in France. That was when I was 38.
Wow.
And Yeah, so I never competed in running as a kid. I was never good at it. I really sucked at physical education at school. All I wanted to do was dancing and going to the gym. So I picked up all these things in my 30s, and I'm now 44 and I'm still loving it and still running a lot.
I love that story. I think, that there's that mindset of going, oh, I've missed my moment. I've never run before, and oh, well, I'll never be a runner. But my question is, how do you go from hating it to these marathons? And I know you talked about Sydney being really picturesque, and we are so blessed in Sydney with our views and our trails and our tracks. But how do you go from hating it to loving it? What sort of tips do you have to going, okay, I'm going to start embracing this. I'm going to give it a go?
Yeah, so I first moved to Brisbane to study at university there, and I met a girl who was obsessed with running, and we became friends, and she roped me into running with her. Then I met another girl who was back then representing Australia in running. She had a scholarship at uni for running, and that's still one of my best friends ever. So she was making me run with her. So I always had people around me that were like making me run. When I moved to Sydney, it was that guy. His name is Ben Lucas. He's the ambassador for the Sydney Marathon. He was my friend. He made me do the full marathon. Then there was Maddie Abel, Pete's coach, who was my close friend, who was encouraging me to do trail running. There was another girl called Sally Lynch, who actually made me to do my first trail run, and our whole friendship at the beginning was just based on running together. So I was just always pushed. I don't know, I was lucky or unlucky. I kept making friends with people. They loved the running, and they were just taking me to all these different locations, showing me how running can be so beautiful, how I can use it to explore cities or just go to have a getaway in the mountains. And yeah, so it was the people around me, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. So interesting. The positive influences of people around you can really impact your journey in life and where you go, right?
Yeah, 100%. As they say, you average of the 5 people you hang out with. It sounds like such a cliche, but I think it is true.
Yeah, I love that. That's such a really nice message. And so how do you go from, running and doing it as a personal hobby and working out? How did you then take that into an actual a fitness career?
Well, I started my fitness career when I was 16. I was a dance instructor. And then when I moved to Australia to study sport and exercise science at the university, I did in my first year my personal training certification, and I became a personal trainer. And because I loved running, I was incorporating lots of running into the training for my clients. And then later I did few running coaching courses. I did the strength and conditioning certification with the Australian Strength and Conditioning Association. Just like attended a lot of courses, a lot of running biomechanics courses, because I was interested in running myself. I was learning a lot about running throughout my career and got lots of different certifications for running coaching and strength and conditioning. And it just became a part of my job naturally.
You really sound like you love to learn. That's something that you obviously are drawn to. You have to understand it. You have to study it. You need to know the scientific backup, right?
I'm a student forever. I always read science every week, every day. I read some new science and something, I like to catch up with people that I can learn from. And I think it's very important in any profession that's science-based, whether you're a doctor or exercise physiologist or physiotherapist, nutritionist. The science progresses very quickly and you need to keep learning. That's what I'm saying to people. Like, if you studied at university 20 years ago and you did not learn anything new since, you are a landline, while the people they've been learning the whole time are a smartphone. That's how quickly this progressed. From, like, I never had a mobile phone until I was 18, which is in 1998. And now we have smartphones with apps and videos and everything. That's how quickly all the science progresses, and you constantly need to learn. Otherwise, you're just a dinosaur in your industry.
Absolutely. And I think that's the lesson is that, time changes and we have access to so much more information globally. I think, I touched on in one of my other interviews with a sports podiatrist about when he studied and the accessibility to information was really restricted. And now we have, the internet at our fingertips, and we can continue to learn and to grow, and our environments change. The way we work and live is different. There's so many factors into growing in our careers, and that comes through nutrition as well. And is that something that sort of led you into the creation of Chief Nutrition? Is nutrition part of the inspiration for you?
Yeah, I actually went back to uni to study nutrition after I launched Chief.
Yeah, right.
The Chief came from the necessity for myself. I grew up eating very healthily, like all the things that people now think is like the new fad, like kefir, sauerkraut, raw cacao, berries, kombucha. My dad and my mom and dad, more so my dad, used to make it at home from scratch.
Really?
We didn't have any ultra processed foods. Like I grew up in communism, there was barely anything in stores, let alone ultra processed foods. So I grew up really healthily. I never had a palate for junk food. The first time McDonald's opened in my town was when I was 16, and I tried it once and I never liked it because I just didn't have a palate for it. So anyway, long story short, I became Australian citizen in 2015, and I had a list of Aussie things I want to do. And one of them was the Kokoda Trail.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to the Kokoda Trail, but when you do that, you are in a jungle for a week or 5 days to a week. And it's a really jungle. Like you don't have access to running water. You don't have access to fridge. There's nothing, no food to buy or nothing. You have to bring everything for yourself to eat. And everyone was bringing like, ultra processed foods, different protein bars, different like packaged stuff. And I just can't bring myself eating anything of that. It really makes me feel unwell physically. And when you do Kokoda Trail, there's always, that you're going to get sick, and having food that makes you sick on the top of it, it's just stupid. So I didn't know what to take with me. And I'm also not a very sweet person, which makes it really hard as well. And I ended up taking lots of biltong, which is like a South African dried meat. And I really love that. Mm-hmm. So I had bags with biltong, and then I had bags with nuts, which I also love. And then I had some dried cranberries, currants and stuff. And as we walked along the track, I ended up mixing it together as a trail mix, and I really loved it. And everyone was laughing at me like it's disgusting, like meat with nuts and cranberries. But then they tried it and it was delicious and everyone wanted it, and I didn't have enough, so I didn't want to share. And I was like, okay, you eat your ultra processed crap, I'm gonna eat it. So when I came back, my now business partner, Justin, and his wife, Libby, were asking me what I ate. And I told them, and they're like, oh my God, it sounds disgusting. But then I went to the shop and made up the trail mix for them, and they really loved it. And I'm like, well, it was great, but it was getting really soggy and it kept falling out of the bags, and it was just not ideal. It would be great to actually have a meat bar for such occasions. And so I Googled if there is any meat bar anywhere. That was like 2015, 2014. And I found a meat bar in the US, one meat bar brand, but they wouldn't ship to Australia. It wasn't allowed, so I couldn't get it delivered. But I was going to the US the same year, like just a few months after the Kokoda. So I went and tried that bar, and it was actually disgusting. I don't name the brand because they do really well, but I just really dislike their product. It's like very slimy and I didn't like it. So I brought it back.
It doesn't sound enticing.
No, I brought it back to Australia, smuggled it in my suitcase and gave it to Justin and Libby to try. And they're like, yeah, no, that's not, great. And I'm like, well, this is not what I envisioned. And there's no other meat bar in the world. I looked. So Justin was like, well, why don't we try to make our own? And he took the initiative and hired food scientist / technologist and approached him about developing Australia's first meat bar. And that's how it happened.
That's really cool. I think, going from someone who's carrying around a bag of meat and nuts
Yeah.
into the product it is today, it's obviously been such a journey for you.
Very long journey. It's been 9 years.
Yeah, wow, that's impressive. And I just love the fact that it's something that you created from personal experience, and something that's really nutritious and healthy, and convenient. Like, it's not always convenient to be carrying around a bag of freshly cooked meat, right? Particularly in the Aussie heat or Thailand heat.
Exactly. And most of non-perishable foods are also either full of sugar or full of harmful additives that are inflammatory, that upset your gut. And it's not ideal in those situations when we're in a jungle or where you have to perform and run a marathon every day in the heat. You really want to avoid anything that would upset your stomach or add to your inflammation, because running so much in the heat already makes you inflamed. You really need to do everything that is anti-inflammatory, not pro-inflammatory. So it's really difficult to find product that's packaged and doesn't have a whole bunch of harmful additives or a lot of sugar.
Yeah, and it's interesting you touched on how you grew up in the foods that you ate as normal is now on trend. And I think, we did go through that really period of packaged and preservative filled foods, and we're all trying to get back to that whole food way of eating and getting rid of all those preservatives and nasties. So it's a really great product, and I know Pete's really excited to try it as well. So Pete's about to embark on the Run to Remember, 1,400 kilometers in 26 days in Thailand in the heat. He has definitely tried your products. He loves them. He's taking them with him. How critical will nutrition be for him on this run?
Nutrition is extremely, extremely critical. And running, just to let everyone know, running that much, it's 53 kilometers every single day. So that's an ultra marathon every single day in a heat. And most ultra runners and every runner overemphasize carbohydrates and underemphasize protein. And protein is extremely important for your body when you run such a distances in the heat, especially because without enough protein, you will not recover properly. Your muscle tissue will start breaking down. You can end up with serious conditions such as rhabdo. It will affect your nervous system. It will affect your hormones, your immune system. So having protein is extremely important. Having collagen also important for your ligaments and tendons, and having something that's easy to eat, easily digestible, and doesn't contain any inflammatory and gut damaging ingredients or gut irritating ingredients, as I mentioned before, is extremely important. So nutrition, hydration is very, very important. And I think the advantage of cheap nutrition products is that we also have, the meat bars, which are savory. And if you run for 26 days every single day and all you eat is carbohydrates and sweet stuff, it gets really mentally challenging as well. And you just want to have something savory. And you also need a lot of salt when you're running so much, sweating so much. Like, people are scared of salt, but you do actually need salt. You need to replace your salt. He's going to be sweating a lot, especially as a guy in the heat. So yeah, the nutrition is crucial. And I never talk too much about carbohydrates because everyone covers their carbohydrates most of the time, more than they need. But most people and most runners I know don't cover their protein, and they don't cover their salts and hydration properly.
Yeah, it's so interesting. And I think, this run is 33 marathons back to back is the equivalent of, as you were saying, and it's a real test of endurance and the importance of nutrition and the recovery for his performance. But how does he maintain the energy? How does he avoid burnout? How does he overcome, the mental hurdle, as you mentioned? And I know recently you've experienced with a friend of yours, the Coast to Cozzy. What takeaways have you taken from that experience in relation to those mental hurdles or that burnout, and any tips for Pete?
So a lot of things. I think it's very important, as I said, to cover the protein and have regular protein intake. And sometimes when you run in the heat and you run so much, you really don't feel like eating anymore. And I think it's important to have the protein in a liquid form. Most runners have gels and they're full of sugar, but what you should really be having, like even if you have the gels, have a liquid protein. So what we didn't have and what we did wrong with our runner Bobby, we should have given him like a whey protein and collagen protein alternate that, let's say, in a cold almond milk to prevent dehydration and to get in him the calories and enough protein for him to repair and to be able to keep going. I think that's really important. People don't know that even 2% of dehydration, that's a 2% of sweat loss, like your weight, like 2% of your weight lost via sweat, creates 10 to 20% decline in running performance.
Yeah, wow.
Also affects
with the heat that he's going through and the dehydration he'll be experiencing.
It also affects your central nervous system, your immune system, your ability to perform and maintain your muscle tissue. So what happens a lot in ultra marathon runners due to the extreme exertion, lack of protein, the heat, and inadequate hydration is a condition that everyone knows as a rhabdo. It's called rhabdomyolysis, when your body starts breaking down the muscle tissue, and it happens to that extent that it starts damaging your kidneys, and you can end permanent damage. So what I would say to Pete is make sure that aside of your carbohydrates, you also have proper fueling strategy, like a proper hydration strategy, and have proper protein strategy. I would recommend having the meat bars if he wants to eat for like his beef, the beef protein, because the protein in the beef bars is similar to whey protein, but it's not, doesn't irritate your gut. It's similar to whey protein in a way that it has all the essential amino acids in it. And it's also very high in amino acid leucine, which triggers the highest anabolic response. So for preservation of muscle tissue and preventing the breakdown, the beef protein or whey protein are the most efficient. And then the collagen protein does the same to ligaments and tendons. It signals to the connective tissues to start synthesizing more of it. So I would have liquid or like smoothies or shakes with either collagen protein or whey protein. And when he wants to eat, I would have the beef bars, because you can cover easily your carbohydrate intake from gels, lollies, and all those sweet things people have, or even bananas. But most runners forget about proper hydration, salt, and protein.
Absolutely. And you touched on collagen. I thought that was such an interesting point. I think, collagen is a bit fatty in some aspects, and there's a lot of people that jump on it for the beauty aspect, but I didn't understand the impact of the tissues.
Yes.
That's really interesting.
I'll explain that, because people associate collagen with skin and they think bad, but there's actually lots of research behind collagen. And when we released our collagen powder and our collagen bars, we had to find literature, good quality literature, such as systematic reviews and randomized controlled trials, to support our health claims. You have to have support for health claims to be able to submit it with the food standards of Australia and New Zealand. So you can't just make it up. And there's actually lots of research behind collagen, especially for skin, but also for ligaments, tendons, gut lining, and other connective tissue. So collagen is the main structural protein in the human body. It's about 30% of the human body's protein, and it's in all our connective tissues. So myofascia, ligaments, tendons, gut lining, skin. The recommendation for collagen intake based on the science is having about 10 to 15 grams of collagen peptides, which is the hydrolyzed collagen, and it's easily digestible, about 30 to 60 minutes before training, so that it can signal to the ligaments and tendons and get into them and trigger the creation of new collagen or preservation of the collagen that's already there. what happens with collagen is, and this is important to know, that from the age of 20 plus minus, depending on genetics and lifestyle, we produce less and less collagen every year. So every year we produce about 1 to 2% less collagen. From the age of 40 plus minus, again, we also turn over or utilize more collagen, and we use even more collagen when we are a woman in menopause. So you really need to start replacing your collagen, especially if you do such an extreme events like PET. And it would be really hard to do it through diet, because the collagen is in the animal skins, bones, fish scales, and things like that. And who wants to eat that?
Yeah.
You can drink bone broth, which is a partially hydrolyzed collagen, is not as much bioavailable, and it's also hard to know how much collagen is in a bone broth. So having the hydrolyzed collagen peptides is just easy way to replace your collagen and to support your ligaments and tendons when you're a highly performing person. And it will also be good for your skin.
Exactly. I find that so interesting, and it's something that I wasn't aware of. So it's always, as you said, the learning aspect is just so interesting. And it's just really great information for all our participants to learn as well. And, and I think that goes to the Chief Nutrition brand is, you're covering all these different aspects of nutrition. How do you balance peak performance products and things like sustainability and the environmental aspect?
I will speak about the environmental aspect, but I forgot to say to you one more important thing from my own experience that I really want to mention. So previously, I used to, I have low carb diet all year round, and I don't have any ultra processed, don't have any gels or anything like that. But previously, when I used to do long races, I would do the carb loading and the gels. And because of that, because I was eating so many carbs and I was so full, I didn't have enough protein. And so let's say if I did 50 kilometers ultra marathon and I had the gels and everything, I would have a massive crash afterwards, and I would feel cold, irritable, exhausted, and then I would be sore for days in my muscles. My last ultra marathon race, which was the Ultra Trail Australia 50K, I did on a carnivore diet. I had no carbs for a month, and all I was eating was meat, and I was having lots of collagen. And I was feeling great throughout the whole run. I had no energy crash or any irritability or anything after the run. I felt perfectly fine, full of energy. And what was really astonishing, I did not have any muscle soreness at all.
Really?
And that race finished, the 50K finished with the giant staircase in the Blue Mountains, which I'm pretty sure is 1,500 steps.
Oof.
And I'm expecting to be very sore, and I wasn't sore at all. And I think it's not because the carnivore diet is so miraculous. I think it's because the carnivore diet reduces your inflammation, but also you have so much protein that you really recover, and you don't have the soreness because your muscles are not damaged. And there's one important thing that I forgot to say. People, even when they have protein, they usually don't have enough, because the general recommendation by the Australian guidelines is that you need to have 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day. But people don't realize this is just to live, to survive. This is not to perform. So when you're an active person, you need about 1.5 to 2.2 grams of protein per every kilogram of body weight per day. And if you're doing anything extreme, or if you're aging, if you're ill, or if you're in a negative energy balance, you need up to 3 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day. And I just wanted to point it out, because most endurance runners don't have it, because they eat too many carbs. They're too full from having too many carbs. There's not enough space for the protein, and they just don't cover their protein. And that's why they get not just why, but that's one of the contributing factors of being injured, being extremely sore, having delayed recovery after racing and training and things like that.
So in your prep to this ultra marathon, you lived purely on steak?
Yeah, I had steak, eggs, salt, and water. That's all I had. No coffee, nothing.
Nothing. That's remarkable. And were you not Like, how much steak were you eating? Were you eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner? Were you just snacking when you felt like it? Is there a theory to how you consume it? How much?
With the carnivore diet, you just eat when you're hungry and you don't eat when you don't. I usually don't have breakfast because I don't have time. I'm with clients, then I drive to the office and then I eat. So I'll just have one steak in the office and one steak at home in the evening. And if I wanted to snack, I had some boiled eggs or the chief carnivore biltong in between. But yeah, you're much less hungry and you don't get cravings. Like most of the time, in Western society, if you sit at a computer all day, every day, even if you train before and after work, it's not enough movement. And we don't need all the carbs and all the calories we're eating. And if every one of us ask themselves every time we're hungry, am I really hungry? Like, am I starving? Or do I just want to have a break? Or do I have craving for something sweet? Or do I just want to procrastinate from a task, so I go and eat? We actually don't need as much food as we think we do. Pete does when he runs marathon every day, but people think that like, oh, because I go to the gym every day, I need to fuel like an elite marathon runner. No, buddy, you're sitting 8 hours on your ass all day, every day. The 1 hour of physical activity you do, that's like the bare minimum to actually be healthy. It doesn't even counteract all the sitting most of the time, and you definitely don't need to carb load to sit in the office. So that's where most people go wrong, because they take the advice that's created for elite runners that train 5 hours a day, and then they take the advice to themselves when they sit in the office all day, every day. And that's how people end up having lots of different health issues and performance issues.
Absolutely. And I think, that 3 o'clock period hits and you've worked out at your lunch break, you're like, something sweet, I need something to get through the afternoon. It's definitely an easy trap to fall into.
Yeah, so when you're on a carnivore diet, you don't get any of that.
And do you get bored of eating steak all the time?
I thought I was going to get bored. Before I started a diet, I thought like, I'm going to have sashimi and I'm going to have lamb and this fish and this and that seafood. And I ended up just loving steak and salt, and it tasted so good. And that's all I wanted.
And you get enough vitamins, minerals without fruit and veg? There's always that question
Oh my God,
of the can't afford diet, right?
It drives me nuts. So the fruits and vegetables, as much as I love them, have less than 50% of the vitamins and minerals to, let's say, 50 years ago, because our soil is depleted. So if you're eating fruit and veg for vitamins and minerals, it's not very efficient or sufficient. Also, unless you eat organic fruits and veg, all fruit and vegetables are heavily sprayed with herbicide and pesticide, which is very inflammatory. It's not good for you, builds up in your tissues, and you can't wash it off from vegetables. Like trying to wash off herbicide from vegetable is like trying to wash off cream of your face that you put it in the morning and you think you're gonna wash it off in the evening. No, it's soaked in your skin.
It's an interesting way to describe it. I like that.
So unless you peel the skins of some of the fruit and veg, it's soaked in it, can't get it off. So fruit and vegetables, I love the taste and everything, not very efficient for vitamins and minerals, and potentially full of harmful herbicide and pesticide. While meat, and especially organ meat, it's full of vitamins and minerals. It's the vitamin and minerals powerhouse, the highest levels of any vitamins and minerals you can find, everything we need. It's easily digestible. If you eat meat that's organic, grass-fed and grass-finished, it's also free from any herbicide and pesticide. It's also free from heavy metals. Lots of plant products are full of heavy metals and other irritating compounds such as lectins, oxalates, and phytates. Meat doesn't have any of that. As a matter of fact, we get our collagen protein powder tested to make sure there's not heavy metals in it, and there's none. So it's a very big myth that we do need fruits and veg for vitamins and minerals. And I'm not saying to people to don't eat fruit and vegetables. It does have some benefits. There are some vitamins and minerals, and I personally love having some fruit and veg. I love cooking with it. So I'm not discouraging people, but if you think that you're doing it for your vitamins and minerals, it's not the best strategy.
It's just so interesting that we just learn so much and we continue to evolve our understanding of nutrition. And, you know, going back to that topic of sustainability and chief nutrition products and the environmental impact of that, can you share a bit about how you balance that with all the studies that you've learned about the importance of the peak performance and the nutrition and
Yes.
being sustainable?
Sustainability is very important for us, more than people probably think. We work very closely with the Aussie farmers. We actually developed a bar in a conjunction with a collaboration with a charity called Thankful, which has got different initiatives such as Thankful for Farmers, Saveful, about saving food and things like that. And the proceeds from the bar, like a certain percentage of the profits goes towards the charity. This has just happened recently. Before that, we've always been sustainable. We use only meat that's organic, grass-fed, grass-finished, and regeneratively farmed. So the regenerative farming actually improves the soil and puts the nutrients back into the soil. So the cows that we use help to improve the environment. We are also very strongly against food wasting. And what happens in Australia is that all the animal hides get thrown into landfill because no one wants them. We are of one of very few companies that sources our collagen from Australia. Most companies source it from overseas because it's cheaper. And in Australia, no one wants to buy the animal hides and process it. So they get thrown into landfill. And we are not a very big company yet. And just last year, we saved about 70,000 kilos of animal hides from being thrown into landfill.
That's huge. That's a huge number.
So we use the animal from nose to tail. We use the meat for the biltong and the meat bars. We use the hides for the collagen, and we use the internal organ for nature's multivitamins. We make like organ capsules, like a liver capsules, heart capsules, kidney capsules, and things like that. So we do really care about the environment, and we're very involved in regenerative farming. We also have sustainable packaging and compostable packaging for some of our products. Not for all of them yet, because we don't use any artificial preservatives, any like synthetic additives, and that makes it really hard to preserve the product. So for example, for the meat bars, if one air bubble gets into the packet, the bar is going to go moldy. So we have to have really good sturdy packaging that doesn't let the air in, which makes it hard for it to be compostable, but we are working on it.
Yeah, I think, you know, you touched on that when you said the American product being really slimy and gross, and that's something that's really beautiful about the product, that it is so fresh and it is so, the way that it arrives is something that you do want to enjoy and you're not looking at it going, ew.
Yeah, thank you.
Now, with the Run to Remember, we're obviously doing the Run to Remember challenge. What's your encouragement for people to participate and your tips and tricks of getting started in this run challenge if you've never started on a challenge before like this?
Well, from the training perspective, I would highly recommend to either have running buddy or join a running group, because the running community has exploded in Sydney, and it's just, running is my whole social life at the moment. I go to all different running groups because I catch up with all my friends in one go, meet new people, and it just makes it so much easier when you have someone running with you. So I would encourage people to either have running buddy or have a running group, or if they work remote, have like an online running group, which what is the challenge actually is. It's creating online community where you can share your experiences and stuff. So that's what I would recommend from the run, like the community and like motivation perspective. From the training perspective, again, most people just start running out of nowhere and just keep running a lot, because when you start running, your lungs and your muscles get fitter very quickly in like 6 weeks. But your ligaments and tendons don't follow. It takes very long time to get adapted to the impact of running. And so what happens? People start running, and after a few weeks, they start running faster and further because they feel good. But the ligaments and tendons start having little micro tears that don't have time to repair as quickly. And then people end up with shin splints usually to start with, and then sore knees, and then sore hips, and then they develop an injury that probably stops them from running, and then was absolutely unnecessary. So I recommend to people, gradually increase their running. How I start with my clients, they've never ran before, I make them do 1 minute run, 1 minute walk, 1 minute run, 1 minute walk for half an hour. Do it for 2 weeks. When that gets easy, do 2 minutes run, 1 minute walk. When that gets easy, 3 minutes run, 1 minute walk. It's a very long process, but it actually works. Second thing, strength training. It is crucial for runners to do strength training. You need, if nothing else, you need strong calves, because when you run, the calves takes like 6 times of your body weight with every step. You need strong glutes, strong core muscles, strong back. Like you just need to strengthen everything, because if you don't have the strength and stability, you start having problems with your lower back, you start having, niggles in your knees. It's just really important. And lifting heavy weights. Don't be scared to lift heavy weights. Like doing high repetition with a light weight, that's same as running. You're already running. You don't need to do that type of training. You actually need to lift heavy weights to grow muscle. Just like proper muscle hypertrophy training. That's what you need. And you need to do it at least twice a week and have 10 to 15 grams of collagen before the training session, 30 to 60 minutes before, and then some kind of whole, like a protein that's got all the amino acids in it, all the essential amino acids, such as beef protein, whey protein, or even some plant protein has it. But I still am convinced, and science is convinced as well, that animal protein is superior when it comes to muscle hypertrophy and, muscle strength.
Yeah, I really like the idea of starting 1 minute on, 1 minute off. That's achievable. It's that mindset of going, I can do it. Let's just get started, and then consistently improving. I think that's a really good tip, just to give it a go, right?
Yeah, just give it a go and don't let yourself down. Like there are running groups. Like I go to running group every Saturday morning. It's in Bronte. It's called the 440, and you run up the hill and down the hill. And because you run in a loops and it's limited by time, it's like 45 minutes. Some people do 10 laps, some people do 5 laps, some people walk, and you're always together. Like no one can run off at you because you're running in circles. So if you're not experienced runner and you don't want to run by yourself, find a group that does that, like running around the track or running up and down the hills. So you don't feel like you're in the back of the pack and everyone run off at you. I think that's also a good idea to do when you're not confident, and when you're like, oh my God, I'm going to go to this running group and I won't be able to keep up. That stops a lot of people from going.
Absolutely. It can be a little intimidating, but I do love the community aspect. And, you shared through your fitness journey and even your move to Australia, that community is really important. And how else has community helped you? And what else would you encourage people to do to engage their community?
My God, it's super important. Everyone keeps talking about the Mediterranean diet and blue zones, and how people in the blue zones live until 100. But people just fixated on their diet, and what they forget about, and what the science talks about a lot, that these people also live so long because of their community, the engagement in the community and in a family. And Australia is very multicultural, and a lot of us, such as myself, don't have family here. And my community is my family. When you're lonely and depressed, it is very bad for your health, because it's like that constant little stress that you don't even realize, and that makes you age and it affects your health. So being in a community, it's fun, but it's actually good for your physical health and anti-aging as well, as funny as it sounds. And now is the perfect time, because, as I said before, the running groups and all the running communities have exploded. They're in every suburb. And it's such a good way to meet new friends, catch up with all of your friends in one go, which is what I do, and just feel like you're part of something. We need it as humans. We think we're so individualistic and everything, but we do need to be part of something, and it does make us feel better. And as I also said before, you are average of the 5 people you hang out with. Even though this might sound like a cliche, it does really affect you who you hang out with. They even say, science says, that if you hang out with obese people, you're more likely to be obese yourself. Not because it's like some kind of obese bug, but because you get roped into all their bad habits and eating habits and eating ultra processed foods and stuff. So if you surround yourself with people that are fit and healthy, motivated, encouraging, you will become that as well.
Yeah, I love that. I've read this quote that said, your energy is contagious, is yours worth catching? And I think that speaks to that. I think that's really important who you surround yourself with.
I love it.
And, you know, Hands Across the Water has such a big community. We have such a loyal group of supporters who come through different experiences, shared experiences that we offer throughout the year. We have bike rides through Thailand, but the Run to Remember is really bringing not just the physical challenge awareness, but also the impact for the children of Hands. And we do have a huge fundraising goal of $1 million for this run. And that all goes back to impacting the children of Hands and creating a life of choice for them. How does the alignment personally and professionally impact you from being involved in this challenge?
I absolutely love the challenge because I think, although I don't have my own children, I have been contributing to children charities my whole life. Every month it goes out of my account monthly for a children's charity. And I think it's really important because children can't help themselves. They can't go and get a job and get new parents and get themselves a home. You know, like they really need our help. They're children and they are the future of us, you know. And if it's a heartbreaking that there are children out there, they have nothing to eat, they have no parents. So I'm up for any charity that helps children because they are helpless. And, you know, I don't think I'm wealthy, like I am living in a little shoebox in Bondi and everything, but comparing to those people, I am wealthy. And the little amount I can contribute, if everyone in the Western world contributed $10, some people wouldn't have to suffer and live without homes and without food. Like it's just really, again, about the community. If everyone puts a little bit together, it's a big thing. And it's again what people think like, oh, I can't give $100 or $200, so I will not bother. No, even if everyone gave $1, it's gonna make a difference. And just think about that, like how, you know, imagine your child who is 5 years old and has nothing to eat and has no parents and lives in some orphanage. Like, you know, I think the children's charities, that's if you want to pay for a charity, choose children or animal charities, because those are the two groups. They're really helpless. They can't do anything. Like it's sad when someone is homeless, but those people can potentially go and find a job and can help themselves in some way, but children can't.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, we're so blessed here with the choices that our children have for futures or opportunities or extracurricular activity. If we can give a small fraction of choice to these children in Thailand, that really does make an impact for them and their future careers. And you're right. So the Run to Remember, there's lots of ways to get involved. You can participate in this challenge, fundraise, raise funds through your friends and family to sponsor you through your own personal challenge. You can sponsor one of Pete's kilometers for only $50, and then you'll go into the draw to win one of two $5,000 cash prizes. I'm sure that's going to come in really handy for the end of the year for a lot of people. Or if you do have that little bit more to donate or a small amount, you can just donate to Pete's Run. We'll put all the details in this podcast today, but you know, if you look at your Instagram followings and all your friends or the businesses you follow, if everybody gave that $1, the impact that could make would be really significant.
Exactly. And that's what people have to think about. Like, yeah, you can't give $50, give $1. Everyone can give $1.
Absolutely. Exactly. Well, Veronika, thank you so much for sharing your time today and your tips and tricks. Really appreciate your insights.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited for the challenge.
Amazing. So how can people reach you? How do they follow you? How do they reach Chief Nutrition and learn more about your products?
For me, the easiest probably is my Instagram, and it's my first and last name. It's Veronika with K, Larisova, Larisova, just as one word. And for the Chief Nutrition, our website is wearechief.com, and our Instagram handle is chief.nutrition.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. And we look forward to seeing you through the challenge.
Thank you. Likewise.